You're running a team, you're running a brokerage, and some of your top agents leave you, go somewhere else, and you're panicked. What do you do at this point? That happened to David Brooke. He is a team leader at eXp Realty and also a coach. And he tells us all about the thought process that he went through, almost becoming an individual agent just to avoid having this happen again. But he persevered and he has a great story. So enjoy the podcast. David, welcome to the RealTrending podcast.
All right, Tracey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I want to start with your story. So what originally brought you to real estate and how has your why evolved since you first started?
Yeah, so I got first started in real estate. My father owned a real estate appraisal company. So this was like way back, like 90s. And he had an appraisal shop of about 30 or so appraisers who were working for him. And he always told me, David, never get into real estate. Do whatever like your heart wants to do. Go after something else. This business will eat you up. And I just remember walking around the office and people being like, one day you're going to do this. And I was like, I will never do real estate. And so I actually took my dad's advice. I decided not to go into real estate. I actually wanted to be a youth pastor at a church. And so I was going to, I was taking classes there. I love playing music. And so that was like a huge part of my life. And then one day that just ended, right? So I got a really challenging phone call that there was some issues at home and I needed to drop out of college. And so I dropped out of college. I never graduated college. And I went home to help my mom. My mom and dad were divorced at the time. And she was facing some really hard struggles in her life. And so I went home and during that time that I was there, we actually took a family trip. We took a family trip to South Africa. And I just remember being on a beach somewhere. And I was like asking God, I was like, what is going on with my life? I dropped out of college. I feel like I have nothing going on. And, I don't know, I never asked for people to believe what I believe, but I just heard this like sense inside of myself that it was like, hey, listen, you got to get right with your dad again. I want you to get back into a mentorship and I want you to go work new construction. And I just remember like, that is this craziest thing. And Tracey, I'm not handy. I'm none of those things. But just one day I remember getting up and it was like, today's the day. And I went and I got in my car and I drove. It was a little left here, right here. And I got out of the car and it was like, go ask for a job. And there was an older gentleman walking down a hill and I went up and I was like, hey, my name is David Brooke and I'm here for a job. And he was like, are you kidding me? And I said, yeah, I'm here for a job. Now, granted, I'm not good. I'm not really handy at the time. I wasn't handy. And he said, well, I can't believe this because I just let somebody go at the top of the hill and I was just going down to post this job. And so he asked me what I wanted to make per hour. I told him I wanted to make $18 an hour. He said, no way. You're 15. You don't even have experience. And I said, well, you can either tell me no, or I'm going to get back in the car and drive around and try to find a new job site. And he gave me the job for $18 an hour. And I started in new construction and did that into the crash. And wouldn't you know it, once the market crashed, my father's real estate appraising business needed a lot of help because they were, the banks were asking for all these appraisals. Yeah. And he called me up and said, hey, do you want to take a look at real estate? And I got into the real estate appraising side of the business back in like 2009 and started there. And that kind of led me on the trajectory from going new construction into residential, real estate appraising. And then eventually I got started in residential real estate sales in 2011. So that's kind of the impetus, the genesis of my story.
So you built a real estate team. You have a coaching platform. We talked a little bit off camera about this. You're with eXp. So you have both a team, a downline, a coaching platform. Tell me how all of those missions intersect.
Well, the missions intersect with one simple, phrase that I've adopted over the years, which is demand excellence. And when I got started into this business, there was a lot of, I don't want to call them lies because it feels like that's like purposeful, but I believed a lot of things that were incorrect about the business that others were saying about the business or about themselves or about their own experiences. And those things would be like, the business is just going to come to you, or you just need to be in the business a long time, or, your brand that you're associated with, they'll bring you the business. And I just remember how that affected my life and, the direction that it took me financially when I listened to that advice. And so my job as a real estate coach, as, someone in someone's upline, or even as a team leader, is to speak what I know has really worked for not only myself, but for so many salespeople. And I want to be clear about this, not just residential real estate sales agents. I'm talking about just salespeople in general, the ability to be able to relate to someone out of knowing nothing about them, the ability to build rapport in a very quick basis with them, understanding how to keep in touch with people regularly and provide items of value or things that are meaningful to them in a very short amount of time that causes that person to say, wow, they're different. They're different than the rest of them out there. And I want to associate myself with that person. They're the person I'm going to ask to whatever it is, sell my house or get a mortgage with, or, get insurance with. Anything in our ecosystem. I've coached people throughout that process. So yeah, we do have both, all three of those programs.
Okay, great. And how many people do you have on your immediate team?
So my immediate team is around 50 agents. We generally fluctuate between, somewhere between 45 and around 60 people, just depending on the market and, just the standards that we have on our team as we raise them. And that's always brought either more people to it or allowed people to say, hey, I'm just, not a fit for this program. It is a play to be the best you can program. And so we've generally hovered around 50 people.
Okay, that's great. So burnout rates are really high in this industry, and you probably know that as a coach and a team leader. So why do you think that is, and what do you do as a coach to help them avoid that?
Yeah, really good question. I've never been asked that question. I think it's one of the best ones that you could ask. And the reason is that I think there's a verse in the Bible that says, hope deferred makes a heart sick. Hope deferred makes a heart sick, meaning that someone had hope that things would go this way. But when you don't get that, now all of a sudden you're feeling like, is this really the right move? Did I do the right thing? Is this the right path? And they start second guessing. And usually people will get into something because they have what's called borrowed belief. It's this idea that, hey, well, you did it, so maybe I can do it. Or you believe in me, so maybe I'll do this thing. But the unfortunate part is if they're getting direction that says, well, the brand will bring you business and then no business comes. Or, if you just send out a few mailers, then people will recognize your name. You'll become a household name. And if that doesn't work right away, as great as that advice might be over time for certain people, I need to pay my bills today. And if I have a hope that I'm going to get paid this week or this next month or whatever it is, and that doesn't happen, it's going to really not only just make me sick, it's going to make me sick of this business. And that's the biggest reason I see that people fail, is because they have a hope in a plan that's actually not working, or they didn't have a plan available at all. And so what my coaching programs seek to do for agents is really just kind of get away from the fluff and all of the whole, I need to be something that I'm not, or try to get into this luxury program that may or may not work. It's very much about the basics of being a great salesperson and being able to relate to people, set plans in motion, and have daily accountability in your life.
Yeah, you talked about one kind of aha moment that you had when you first started in real estate. Has there been a more recent one that really impacted how you structured your team or how you've moved forward in your career?
Yeah, being a parent. Being a parent has been one of the biggest eye openers to me because I've got to watch my daughter Shiloh and how she performs in school, at home, etc. And, it's been a while since we were children, right? We don't remember what that was like. We have recollection of general sentiment, but watching a child and how they behave with things, children love routine. Children absolutely thrive under conditions where they know that things are clear. I know when I'm home. I know where I'm going. I know what's acceptable. I know what's not acceptable. Children thrive in environments where they get direction from leadership that is kind but firm about things. They get direction when they have rewards that they can relate to. And I don't want to liken, real estate agents to children. I'm not saying that in any way. But what I am saying is that certain things about that don't change for us as humans. And when we get into the sales business, we're given three big lies that really detach us away from it. The first thing is that I can have unlimited money, which means that if I have unlimited, then it's not an actual number, which means if I don't have a number, I can't reverse engineer from it. So I don't have a plan. And if you were to tell a child we don't have a plan for the day, they generally get anxious. And so people get anxious because sky's the limit. I don't know what to do. The second lie is that I get to be my own boss. And as soon as I get to be my own boss, and which everyone wants to be, then if I never have anyone to check in with, now I can always talk myself out of my own responsibilities that I need to do. And that also gets us into trouble. And the third lie that shows up for many people is that I have a flexible schedule. And a flexible schedule for children is not exactly ideal. They want to know, okay, lunchtime happens here, and then we take a nap, and then we get up, and then we play, and then we have bath and dinner and books, and there's a schedule to it. And, Gary Keller said it well. It's not about selling real estate. It's about following a schedule. When real estate agents actually have a schedule in place for themselves that makes sense, that's relevant to their life, I find that those are the agents who are actually thriving. So much of the coaching program or the organization through eXp or any of that really helps agents focus on, how do I get myself actual plan in place for the income I want to make, reverse engineer it? How do I make sure that I get a schedule that I can actually follow? And how do I have the accountability, maybe not a boss, but how do I have the accountability in my life that lets me know I'm on track, I'm measuring what matters?
So let's talk about that schedule. Like, what do you think is a good routine or schedule for, an agent to follow? And I know it depends on, it's personal, but, what are the maybe 5 things that you feel like they should be doing every single day, whatever time they plan to do them?
Yeah. So probably the first one that I would say is, most people don't have a perfect morning routine. Like, we're used to scrolling Instagram and we find someone dunking their face in an ice bath of seltzer oil. Like that's like this idea. I need to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. That's just not realistic. Like, you need to be able to have a morning that makes sense. Like, I have a 15-month-old and I have a 6-year-old. And, for a while, my 15-month-old Harvey was not sleeping well during the night. Like, I can't have a schedule where I'm in bed at like 8 o'clock and waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get things done. It's not relevant to my life. So the first thing that I say that needs to be relevant is your morning routine. And what I typically give people is a list of 15 things that they can do in order to set themselves up, depending on their personality, for that perfect morning. That might be journaling. That might be time with God. That might be a walk. That might be just family time. It may be just a great breakfast, but you have to have at least a few things there that are going to set you up for a great morning. So that's the first thing. The second thing is some sort of activity that allows you to move your body. Most people don't understand this. Like, if you don't have your body in motion, then I'm sorry, when you go and meet with someone later on in the day, your energy is going to be down. You're not going to feel excited about yourself. And you want to change your life, move your body, because it tells you that, I can do hard things. I can get through hard stuff. I can get a sweat. My endorphins are there. Serotonin levels are high, and I'm going to feel happy because, most of real estate, 70% of it is things that aren't great: death, disease, divorce, all these sorts of things. And you want to be in a great place, not in a place of desperation or eagerness to try to make a sale or something like that. And so that's the second one is, hey, let's move your body. The third one is going to be all of the pieces of the business. So I break down business, doesn't matter if you're selling real estate or not, into CEO, COO, and CFO roles. And the CEO role is that sales and marketing. You need to be meeting new people every day. It needs to be having conversations with people you have already talked about in the past. And so a segment of your day needs to be the CEO role. That, in my opinion, for brand new agents, probably around 70% of their day, 75% of their day. For existing agents, established, excellent agents, maybe about 20% of your day, simply because you've got most of the business coming to you and you're kind of in maintenance mode on there. The third one, or the fourth section, would be the COO role. And that COO is all the operations. Those are mainly things that can be leveraged. That's going to be following up on listings. That's going to be going on the showings, anything that you can leverage, but it is the operations part of your business. And then the last part that I recommend that people have in their schedule is a CFO role. Those are going to be the things that measure what matters. If you got to the end of your day and you didn't track what you ate, guess what? You're not going to remember in 3 days what's going on with your macros. Or if you don't track how much you drank for water, then you're not going to understand, am I hydrated or not? The same would apply with your business. If you don't understand how many calls did I make or how many appointments did I set, I don't care if you're selling real estate, mortgages, insurance, or anything else in the world, you're going to be completely unaware of what's happening in your business. So perfect morning. I moved my body. I got my CEO role, my COO role, and my CFO role all in my day. You do that, you're going to have a successful business.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think a morning routine, no matter what it is and what time you get up, is so important. It's vital to me for sure. So,
for most of us, the problem is that we just kind of let the day roll. And all of a sudden, like, you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's 10 o'clock. Like, what's going on with my day? And so I think that's the first place for most people to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've talked about kind of walking away from leadership. What happened and what made you stay?
I think that leadership, it often gets called lonely. And the reason is it's hard to relate to anyone in your company. You end up becoming friends with the people who you work with. Hopefully you work with people who you like. And then that likeness is more like friendship in many ways. And it's hard to keep those lines separated sometimes. And then when those people, for their own great reasons or whatever reasons, decide that now is not a good fit for us to be partners anymore for whatever reason, that can hurt when they leave. And then if you have enough of that happen in your business, this mindset of, you know what, I'm being left, or there's some sort of like abandonment that's happening there. And I know for anyone who's listening, who's a team leader, who's a broker, who's built any sort of organization, even outside of real estate, it can be a painful process to be a leader of something and feel like you're moving in a direction, creating a sort of, we always call this like a family sort of environment. And then one of your family members leaves. And that wouldn't be fun in any sort of relationship. And it's definitely not fun in business. And so there was a point in our business where we had a really strong exodus out of our company, to just be as blunt as I possibly can. And it hurt, and it was super painful. And, when I calculated the math of running my own real estate team, to just doing it solo, right? Just going out there and killing what I eat, eating what I kill, and just doing that whole thing. It seemed a lot more attractive. And what it seemed that it was avoiding the pain of that happening again, rather than the mission that I knew was the purpose of my life, was to help people get outside of their heads and to give them that vision of demand excellence, not only for their business of what they can do, but also to be the best versions of themselves and demand excellence of themselves. And that, that was a hard season. I know that my wife got me through that. And she consistently reminded me over and over and over again. She was like, this is just a refining process. And my coach, John Cheplack, he helped me through that as well and said, you know what, how is this here to evolve my soul? And it just got me into a place where I reminded myself over and over again, Tracey, I need to be mission focused rather than moment focused. And in the moment, that hurt. But the bigger picture was the mission that I'm on. And that's what I've recommitted to and made it all the stronger.
That's great. And so when you, work with your coaching clients, what's the one thing you see that immediately tells you this person is destined for greatness or leadership, or will be a great agent?
The most important thing, my father told me this. He heard this from an employer. The most powerful thing that you should look for in a man or a woman when you hire them is the hunger that they have inside. Mm-hmm. That is something that I can never teach. We go through EOS, and we've heard the trainings through there. That's entrepreneurial operating systems. And it's, part of how our company runs here. And they teach you that when you look for an employee, you're looking for 3 attributes. And that's for someone to be hungry, for someone to be humble, and for someone to be smart. And I don't mean intelligence. You can just be smart in terms of like, you can see the opportunities that present themselves. But hunger is something that you can never teach, right? There's a fire that lives inside of some people that is just like, you know what, I could have, I have a little bit more money than I did when, 10 years ago. But that hunger hasn't ever gone away. And it only has gotten stronger. And that's something that you can't teach someone. And so when I see agents with that massive hunger inside, not just like a need to sell, but a desire to be more for themselves, I can often see that that's a trajectory for greatness. And the reason is that the hunger needs to be greater than I'll use this word, than the crap you have to eat in this business. And that's probably putting it, just a little bit less bluntly than I need to, but there's a lot of crap that you have to put up in this business, right? There are late nights. There are a lot of emotions that get involved with people as they buy residential real estate. There's some huge personalities of people and their egos getting bumped into a little bit. There's a little bit of that friction that happens. And a lot of times, we do not get this wonderful pre-approved, can't wait to work with you, 20% down, whatever you say, Matt, we don't get that all the time. In fact, we have to eat a lot of crap, but the hunger needs to be stronger than we have to eat. And if you have that in your business, then I know that you're going to be successful no matter what I put in front of you and test you with that week.
That makes sense. I want to go back to when you lost a portion of your team. What was your lessons learned there? Once you decided to recommit, what did you, kind of rejigger on your team, or how did you make changes? You can't completely avoid something like that happening, but what changes did you make to ensure that you at least had some advance notice of it, or could maybe keep people?
Yeah, here's the lesson. It's my fault. It's my fault. And I think that's part of what leadership is, understanding that everything rises and falls on leadership. Every win, here's the challenging part of leadership. Every loss is the leader's fault. It is. It all comes down from the top. It starts at the top. And every win actually is the result of the people who you've hired. It's an indirect result of your own leadership, but then it's everyone else's win but yours. And I had to learn that the hard way. I learned it because I did not provide great leadership to certain members of my team. I understood from afar how to generally lead, but I wasn't invested with the people who I needed to be invested with. In fact, I took my eye off the key people who would help me build my company, and I put my eye on what could be. And as empowering as that can be for a leader to be focused on the vision, if you have no one following you, well, everyone following you is the company. And so what ended up happening is I got ahead of my team, so far ahead of my team that I ended up losing them. And that was a really tough lesson for myself, right? And painful one at that. And so for anyone listening, I don't know where you are in your business. It's always inspiring to see the next great thing, or to get a great idea, or to be inspired to run ahead on something. But if you're not bringing others with you, the definition of a leader is someone who has followers. And if you don't have any followers, you're not leading anything. And that was a tough lesson for me to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what's the one thing you think agents need to hear right now that maybe they're not hearing or they're not getting through traditional training?
I'd kind of go back to a little bit of the core of my coaching program, which is that daily accountability with themselves. As long as the industry continues to provide the you can do it how you want, when you want, where you want idea. And that is, here's the thing about great lies. Great lies have a shred of truth. Outstanding lies have a lot of truth associated with a little bit of a lie. And the reality is you can build anything you want. You can do coaching, you can do development, you can do recruiting, you can do luxury sales, you can do all of these sorts of avenues of it. But when in the presence of so many options, paralysis persists. So if we have too many options, it's like, I don't know what to do. And children are the same way. If you give them, hey, what do you want to have for dinner? It's like, I don't know. Or they're going to pick the thing that they think they want, right? That's probably not good for them. But the best thing to do is to say, hey, what would you like? This option or this option? That's how you help kids. And real estate agents are no different in that way. There's so many options that it creates paralysis, and we're actually not good at any one of these things. And the first things that need to be learned when you're a real estate agent is how to become a salesperson. And part of being a salesperson is having a schedule that you can work every single day, and having somebody follow up with you every day. So you need a boss, you need a plan, and you need to be able to be in a position where someone's measuring what you're doing every single day. And I think that that's what needs to be shared more. Unfortunately, Tracey, I don't think it's ever going to get shared, because it's hard to compete with the message of do whatever you want versus someone who's saying, I want you to do this one thing. And if you do that, you'll get everything else that you want later on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have two more questions. The biggest myth in real estate you wish would go away?
The biggest, I don't know, the biggest one, but something that just pops to mind in the moment is this idea of being all about this luxury agent. And I was talking with an agent the other day who was telling me about his pursuits to be in luxury. And again, I love the idea of being in luxury. I just know my market. And in my market, selling luxury, I'm in the Connecticut marketplace for anyone who does. In the Connecticut marketplace, we get this idea, okay, even in Connecticut, they're all multi-million-dollar homes. It's not true. Most of the state, right, is Harford County, Talon County, even Litchfield County for a lot of it. It's just median price homes, $400,000 homes. And you can go and you can sell this $1 million home, and it's right. And someone asked me one day, they were like, hey, would you rather sell 10 $1 million homes or 40 $250,000 homes? And the idea was, well, you could sell less, you could work less, you get bigger paychecks. The people are, not usually in duress, right? It's all this great stuff. But I asked him, hey, listen, when you're selling real estate, deals are going to fall apart. It's just a part of sales, whatever you sell. Yes, no problem. If I lose 2 deals and I got 40 deals going on, it doesn't hurt as much, right? I still have that cash flow. If I lose 2 deals and I got 10 deals only, that's a way bigger hit. Now I got 20% that just went away. And on top of that, if I only do 10 deals in a year, that means 2 months of the year, if I space everything out, I'm not getting paid. Some of these agents, they get paid 50,000 in a month and then zero the next, 20,000 in another month. I'm telling you, Tracey, I don't know many people who know how to manage money in that way when they're getting paid so infrequently and at large chunks and then have nothing coming in. Oxygen is the life. Oxygen is the life to our body. Well, cash flow is the oxygen to a business. And if you don't have income coming in all the time, that's an issue. And so my lesson that I teach for most people is not don't do luxury. It's get units and focus on the units. Because when you have the units, you have that repeatable cash flow that's constantly coming in. Yes, you're working more, but welcome to life, right? But you are in the position where you've got a little bit more coming in. So if something falls apart, you still got another one. You can get the luxury deal that's here and there. I get that. But if you focus on doing units, you get more relationships. Those relationships begin to build and create gravity for your business. And that's how you really build a true, huge business.
Makes sense. Last question, a book or a podcast, a book any, agents should read or a podcast that they should be listening to all the time or both?
Yeah. So, I love some of the classics. I read Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I thought that was awesome. I love, books that are all about, real estate and helping you become a better person, right? With salesmanship, et cetera. But I'm just going to give you one. I read John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And, I find that when we become better humans, whether that's someone who cares about their body and works out, whether that's someone who cares about their spiritual life and becomes a better human being because they desire something other than just the temporal things that they see right around them. When they focus on things that are about leadership and about how to lead themselves, man, you can really become a great sales agent. You can become a better father, a better husband, a better whoever you are in your world. You become a better person when you're able to lead yourself better. And so, my suggestion is for people to dive into books about leadership. Confront the bigger issues that are showing up in your life, because what shows up, what's happening in the private world shows up in the public atmosphere. And if you can handle what's going on inside and develop yourself through leadership, face up with the hard things in life, answer those questions, spend time in quiet, and be able to develop yourself as a person, it's unstoppable what you can be as a human being, whether you're a real estate agent or showing up as dad at home.
Great. Well, David, thank you so much for joining the Real Trending podcast today.
I'm honored. Honestly, this has been fun. Tracey, you asked great questions, which, sometimes people are just like, hey, what do you need to do to sell more real estate? But I really appreciate the questions that you asked today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.